Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. And this is Wealth Wednesdays, as always. And today, it's pretty much going to be an episode about Apple and some of the big news that have been coming out. All right. So, just recently, Apple struck a historic stock buyout. And we're going to dive into what this means, what that is. And essentially, Apple buys back $110 billion worth of stocks. Again, we're going to dive into that and take a look into what that means for the company. We'll also be diving into a big problem that Apple is currently having, but why investors should love that they're having this problems. All right. So we're going to dive into what that issue is as well. As always, this is Wealth Wednesday hosted by Latin Wealth. And Jeremiah, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm not an Apple person, but when you told me, hey, we gotta have something about Apple, I was like, all right, man, we can. No, I'm just playing. I invest in Apple, so this is gonna be good. Hopefully, people taking notes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting episode. So let's jump into what the big problem that Apple is having right now, why investors should be happy about it, right? So we've been speaking on some of the different challenges and problems that Apple has had lately. iPhone sales are down, Vision Pro not seeing as much success. Similar story with some of their wearables and their accessories. The sales for this category has been down 9%. Lawsuits, and then the cherry on top, Mark Zuckerberg sending shots like Kendrick Lamar with that video. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, um, yeah, I mean, a lot of different issues that we've been covering in these previous episodes. But what's the problem going on with Apple right now? So the iPhone maker has too much cash on hand. All right. So Apple's cash in marketable securities has totaled $162.3 billion.
Would it be?
What a beat. All right. So, what this means for them is the company plans to transition to a net cash neutral position over time, where its cash and its debt are equal. All right. So, with Apple's total debt at a close to $105 billion and quarterly operating cash flow of nearly $23 billion, Apple has a lot of cash to spend. All right. So I want to break this down. I want to get your thoughts, Jeremiah, and I also want to get your thoughts because when people hear debt, they immediately think it's a negative thing, right? They're like, man, 105 billion dollars of total debt. This is insane. Let us know what your thoughts are about this.
You got to understand that to operate a business, all right, inside the United States, you're gonna have some type of debt, and by debt, we don't mean like you owing on a credit card, but this is operating debt. Right? This is overhead. This is paying all the Apple stores that you see. This is inventory, right? This is gas for the trucks. This is for the engineer. This is all these things that come with actually running the corporation. That's considered a debt. Okay. That's not bad debt. It's operating. So you're telling me, like you said, they're looking to go, cash neutral. So basically, if I had 105, add in a 23 extra, right? So around 130. So we're 130, 130, right? We're kind of even on each. My debt and my cash is equal. So if anything happens, I can bail ourselves out. I don't have to go and seek to be bought, right? I can
Hmm.
bail us out of whatever issues that we have. That's a good plan to have.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, where they're sitting at right now, having too much cash, we're going to get into it with the buyout, but like basically, has everybody trying to figure out what are they doing? And we've been talking about what they're going to do anyway, right? So it's like, I think that the stock took a little hit, but then the correction came back and they're like, well, actually, maybe so the retail people are like, well, maybe they're setting up for something big.
Hmm.
Talked about a couple of different acquisitions that they probably should be looking into. But, I think that that's a good problem to have at this point, especially with the way things are going in the economy right now. It's not bad to have cash on hand. I think that that's a good idea. Just, just me.
100%. No, I agree. And it's gonna, like you said, we've been speculating on what they're gonna do, what they should do, and whatnot. And as of last week, one of their biggest moves that they made is they announced their biggest stock buyback in history. All right. So let me break down what a share buyback is for the people that don't know. A share buyback is also known as a stock repurchase. It's a strategic financial move where a company repurchases its own shares from the market. All right, this process involves the company reducing the number of available shares on the market, which results in decreasing the total outstanding shares. Now, you may be wondering, why the heck would a company do this? All right, so there's a couple different reasons why a company would do this. We mentioned one already, utilizing excess cash. Another reason, just throwing it out there, it could be consolidating control, right? As the numbers of shareholders increase, decision making it can become very cumbersome and may lead to power struggle with the company. So it could be a way for companies regaining that control and that power back. And then this also could be a sign of the company signaling that the company is undervalued, right? When a company initiates a share buyback, it can signal to the market that it perceives its own shares to be undervalued. So just a couple reasons why a company would look to buy back some of their shares. And again, we mentioned that they have bought back a historic $110 billion last week. This is not their first time that they've done this. This is actually the fifth time since 2018. This is just the largest since then, or since ever, actually. Not
That's
since,
ever.
yeah,
That's the
ever, yeah.
largest buyback ever. And so, inquiring minds want to know what are you getting all that cash for? And if you thought, if the buyback was because they felt that their stock was undervalued, not only do you kind of set the marketplace for what your stock price is by what you buy, you also create just naturally, right, in the flow of economics, supply and demand. If I'm cutting back on the amount of available shares that are out there, what does it signal to some retail people? It signals that, hey, there's less out here, so it becomes more valuable. The next thing you know, sometimes the price of the stock starts to shift up a little bit
Just
because
like the
now
Bitcoin having.
exactly. So there's less out there. So you have to think about it from multiple different standpoints. Also, some people don't think about this, but when a buyback like that big comes, it has to be something major, usually because you have to fund whatever it is that's happening. And you have to think about all the moving pieces, a part of whatever that is, the overhead, everything that comes with it. So I'm actually super curious to see what they did it for. It's in preparation for something. I mean, we all have been waiting. I think it's very strategically done that it's in May. We all know there's the big announcement that's coming in June. So it seems to me they have to pay note on whatever it is they're going to announce that's in
Mm.
June. So we'll see what that is. I mean, there's been some rumblings. We talked about that with the AI stuff. We saw them do the deal with Google. Who knows? We'll see what's up.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into that. So when that news first came out of this buyback, what were your initial thoughts?
Hmm. I think I said something to you. I was like, "Oh, they trying to play chess again."
Yeah.
Because Apple's been playing checkers, and Meta and all these other people have been playing chess on them, right? And we've talked about that already. So that was my initial thought. I was like, "Oh, okay, they're starting to play chess again." So now they're starting to do something that's actually going to hopefully help to place them back where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't have an answer on why they would do it. Um, so did their stock drop before the buyback or after?
After,
Interesting.
yep, because
Why do you think that is? Go ahead.
the earnings were actually positive, by the
Yeah.
way. Apple's quarterly was good. Um, I feel like the people were basically signaling like you don't have belief in your own stock, or you're trying to set yourselves up for hard times coming, right? They're like, oh, you're getting cash heavy because iPhone sales were down 10%. You
Mm.
scrap the iPhone, the Apple car, you scrap that. the Vision headset did horrible. So maybe you're just trying to get cash because you're about to fire people and you're just trying to have money on hand. So I think that's kind of how people took it. They didn't take it the other direction, which is in a positive aspect. I think that you and I kind of thought like I was thinking
Hmm.
positively, but
Hmm.
yeah, I was surprised, but then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, this could signal to people that there's hard times coming and that they
Hmm.
kind of knew hard times are coming, so they want to be cash heavy.
So with that being said, I think it was today, or I think it was today. They just rolled out Apple. We mentioned that they were going to roll out a new iPad. Now, this is not the big announcement that's coming next month that we're anticipating, but essentially they rolled out a new iPad, which I think as a consumer, it's kind of cool because they haven't put one out since, I don't know, 2018. I think it was the last one, with the M4 chip, um, iPad Air in two different sizes, and an Apple Pencil. So just something small, you know, like Kendrick put out, a small little track. It's not Euphoria, it's not the heavy hitter, it's not the knockout blow, which we're anticipating, a big AI announcement in June. You mentioned the partnership with Google, integrating OpenAI. Um, I think that's definitely the way they're going to go. I don't think there's enough or time to develop something organically that's really going to knock something out the park.
No, you're gonna have to go and partner with somebody and get into something that's already integrated. We talked about that, how long it takes to have an idea and then implement that. So you got to go with something that's already taking off, that's already generating. What better deal to do than something that's AI related because AI is obviously still going. Some people say it's a bubble, but I don't think that's realistic. I mean, I think it's taking off and I don't see it falling off anytime soon. So, yeah, get that partnership, get something that's already going, help to kind of ride that wave, and then hopefully by that time that gives them a little breathing room and give them time to come up with something additional.
What are your signs of a bubble? You mentioned, because I've heard that a couple times where, people think that we're in an AI bubble. I don't necessarily believe that. I think, my opinion, when we're in a bubble is when we just start seeing this random companies just popping up out of nowhere and they have no utility, right? I don't think we're seeing that just yet.
No, I mean, number one, my number one sign of a bubble is overvaluation of the stock. That's number one. And there's price points, right? There's a price range. So usually you could look back on the actual trend of a stock and you could go to the little markers, 6 months, a week, 6 months, a year, 5 years, and you can kind of see an average, right, between that amount of time. Unless it's just a crazy trajectory and it just shot up like crazy, like Nvidia, then you wouldn't see that, right? But on like Apple or something, you can see an average, like, oh, it grew by this much year over year on average, right? So if it's overvalued, then that's number one. Number two is if there's no actual utilization for whatever it is, the industry
Hmm.
that it's in. Perfect example of that was the NFTs. It just wasn't
Hmm.
a realistic, not to say that they won't be used in the future, but for right now, it was before its time. It just wasn't a very strong utilization rate. And so it fell, the bottom dropped out, right? And so if you don't have that utilization, you're not going to find people that see uses for it. And then there's no substance, there's no value in whatever you're offering. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely even some of the meme coins with crypto from like
Those,
20
yeah,
Dogecoin, and I mean they
Buyback,
have a ton of them out there that,
yes.
uh but anyways, I want to transition a little bit. We have a little bit more time yet. I want to hit you with something that we didn't discuss, or that we didn't plan to discuss. Man, I'm curious, in your opinion, this, and I want to keep this concise, but why do you think it's hard for our people to invest and actually take action on information? Why is it easier? I should say, why is it so difficult for our people to do that?
A lot of it has to do with self-limiting beliefs, right? And another of it has to do with childhood trauma and our relationship with money. What you saw your parents do, what you saw your grandparents do. For the most part, for our people, we're not given, right? Latinos don't teach each other positive actual aspects or rules to money. We even sometimes create like uh, I don't know, this chasm or this like dark shadow over people that have money. You know, the
Hmm.
auntie or the uncle that has money, people say, oh, they're Hollywood now. Oh, they think they're better than
Hmm.
this. But like it's evil to have money and those type of things, right? And so we've created this kind of, I don't know, this like facade that you don't need money and being poor is the way to be. You're not fully Latino if you got money. Now you're other people, right? And so I think that's a bit of it. And then, like I said, the self-limiting beliefs is another thing because some of us just don't believe we deserve to have money,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Like we live
Yep.
in a person in existence where for us, we just don't deserve that. We haven't done anything. We're nobody. And that's a self-esteem and self-limiting belief problem, you know, versus other people who know that they deserve to live nice. They deserve to have the finer things in life. So I think that's the biggest problem. Like you hear a lot of stuff, you'll hear a lot of advice or whatever, but you don't implement it because it wasn't meant for you. That's meant for
Mm.
other people. That's what I
Mm.
think.
You had the quote of the week, in my opinion, before we hit record. You said you will derail your family's life with your
Mm.
limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
right? The life that your wife wants to live, that the life that your kids
Yeah.
need to have, you will derail their life by you having those limiting beliefs that you feel like you don't deserve to be wealthy, you don't deserve to invest, you don't deserve to do X, Y, and Z. You'll
But
derail their life.
do they deserve it? Does your wife deserve it? Do your children deserve it? Do your grandchildren deserve to have the life that they desire? Anyone and most people would say yes, right?
Hmm.
But what if you today stopped and realized that that's a decision based on you and your decisions? That nobody else right outside of you, you're the catalyst. You're the person that's going to initiate that and create that for everybody else. You can't lean it on them because that's what happened to you, right? It was laid
Hmm.
on you and no one gave you, right? So we have to be the people that are changing the course for our generation. So if you knew that that's dependent upon you, which it is, because we were talking and I was like, hey, Chris, you know that trip that you took? What if you weren't financially stable enough to go take that trip with your grandma and enjoy that trip? Like, think about the experiences you wouldn't have made and the
Hmm.
memories that never would have been cemented in your family's existence. These are deep things, but this is stuff that you really have to think about, right? With not being financially responsible, not taking the advice and implementing it. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's true.
It's
All of
it's extremely selfish for you to not
it is.
implement, extremely selfish. And so, we say that to say we come on here, we're going to continue coming on here, continue pounding this information in you guys' head. I know Jeremiah, before we hit record, he was telling me about some of his visions that he has, for our people. And, it's very beautiful to hear. But we come on here every week and we want you guys to get the information, but we have to take the steps. We got to take some type of step, something, right? And even if you don't know the whole picture, you can definitely take the step to get there as much as possible. Like for me, perfect example, I try to challenge myself like unconsciously every single day to learn 5 new things,
Hmm.
right? And it's you may be like, well, I don't know, like 5 questions,
Right.
or I don't have 5 questions in my head. Well, that means you may have to put yourself in a scenario or other rooms where you start questioning things, where you start asking questions. And my point with that is that's going to lead you to educating yourself and doing due diligence on finances, on business, entrepreneurship. And then from there, the biggest point is just taking that step, taking those action steps.
I think that flows into, something that we've spoken about before, even a book that we've probably suggested for people, which is the Atomic Habits. These are just little things, man. Little steps, one by one. This is the stuff that's going to help you, one foot in front of the other. You'll never get anywhere if you don't start walking, right? And like, well, I don't walk, I drive. Okay, well, you got to walk to the car, right? So you're not going to get anywhere if you just sit on your couch. And so that's what we're saying. You got to take those first steps.
You gotta take those first steps. Yep. Love it. Anything else before we had here? Any last words?
No, man, I would say that number one, be realistic about all the things that you want to achieve, write that stuff down, and then go and create the steps necessary to get there and then actually follow through with it.
100%. Love it. And as always, you guys know where to find us on all streaming platforms. You can go ahead and share this episode with one other person out there that needs to hear this information. And when we say that, we mean that from our hearts. We really want to continue to grow this. And if you guys could help us out and to share it with one other person, it would mean the world to us. And with that being said, it's a Lot Wealth family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.